Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Kennedy Riley, the founder of Dear Student Athlete University, which I created to serve all student athletes, whether you're in middle, high school, college, and you're getting ready for that sometimes scary transition of life after athletics. As a student athlete, it's super easy to get caught up in who you are as an athlete because we devote so much of our time and energy for so many years to our sport that when it comes time to walk away from our sport, whether it be because you're not competing professionally, maybe an injury, or you just decide to walk away, it's oftentimes kind of scary to figure out who you are, not only or outside of being an athlete. A lot of the information that I've shared previously has primarily been on professional development, which I'm super passionate about. But something that I feel like is just as important as professional development is personal development. So today I'm joined by a great friend of mine, and we're going to take a deep dive into a conversation around what life looks like for both of us after athletics and kind of how we're navigating it differently and continuing to redefine and rediscover who we are beyond the jersey. So I'm going to turn it over to Sophia to introduce herself and let us know what she's been up to since graduation.
Yes, hello everyone. Like Kennedy mentioned, my name is Sophia. I am super excited to be in this conversation today. When Kennedy shared and created Dear Student Athlete University, I was just really excited because I feel like this is something that we needed, that I needed, after graduation, and is going to be a really awesome resource. So I hope that this explodes and takes off everywhere. A little bit about me. Like Kennedy mentioned, I'm Sophia. I'm originally from New York. I grew up in competitive cheerleading, and I was recruited to Baylor's Acrobatics and Tumbling team in college. So I was Kennedy's teammate there for 4 years and good friend, and competed there, like she said. Graduated May of 22 with my bachelor's, was kind of not sure where I was going to go next. I grew up always believing I was going to become a doctor, wanting to go to medical school, and still super passionate about healthcare, but kind of realized by like junior year of college that I wasn't going right into medical school. I was not ready to take the MCAT and do all of those things. So I was kind of a little bit lost figuring out what I was going to do next after that year. I knew I enjoyed coaching, but I always kind of looked at it as more of like a side hustle to make money, I guess, and less of like a career opportunity. Um, and so I started coaching a little bit and I applied to grad school. I got accepted to a master's of nursing program that I'll be finishing in September. So I'm almost done. I'm very excited. But yeah, so I transitioned, I guess, after my undergrad, I was able to take a semester off because the nursing program that I started began the following January. So I had like kind of that fall term just to chill, work, kind of decompress from graduating college, make some money and just kind of travel, live my life a little bit and get started with the whole coaching career as well.
Awesome. See, it's so funny that you explained that because I feel like there's such like a stereotype between like best friends not really knowing what each other does. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation in a, I guess, different environment so we can both get to learn a bit about what we do on a day-to-day basis. So
Yeah.
similar to Sophia, I did competitive cheer growing up. I'm originally from Atlanta. Went to Baylor, and yeah, like she mentioned, we competed on the same team together at Baylor on the acrobatics and tumbling team. Um, and going into Baylor, I think I was bio pre-med, which is kind of crazy considering I graduated with a corporate communications degree and corporate communications and administration degree. And I took that into the tech space. I had an internship with Nike where I worked doing external comms, but then upon graduation, I applied to a couple positions like my senior year of college and ended up choosing Oracle, accepting the offer and going into the tech space. Originally started off in sales, was not for me at all. Just didn't play well to my skill sets. But then I was like, okay, how can I leverage the things that I learned in college and just like overall as a student athlete, like just my determination, my drive to, always push myself to be better and better show my skill set in the workplace. So I ended up in the field marketing space. And that's kind of where I am today. I run all of like our third party digital webinars and events and has been a space that I'm still continuing to learn and grow in. And I think as both of us just like navigate throughout life, figure out what we want our lives to look like after athletics, I know we both started cheering very early. Um,
Yes, from a very young age.
yeah, from a very young age. And I think that's the case for most student athletes, especially once you make it to the collegiate level. You start at a very young age. So most of our days look like going to like waking up, going to school in the mornings, practice and training in the afternoon, sleeping and eating somewhere in there, a little bit of studying, and then doing that all over and over again. But I want to know what was maybe your most challenging, what was the most challenging thing for you when you were transitioning to life after athletics?
I think, and you definitely touched on it kind of in your introduction, but just figuring out who I was, like you said, we started so young that I think the only like life I knew was Sophia as a cheerleader or as an athlete. And so to suddenly not have to go to practice, it was almost like, okay, I've been doing this for so long. I knew it was going to come to an end at some point, but like, what do I do now? Like, what does this life look like? How do I spend my hours? I have too much time on my hands. Like, what
Right.
am I going to pour all of my energy into? Because, like you said, once you get to that really high competitive level and make it through, into your collegiate career, like you are so dedicated to your sport that
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I'm so used to being like 120 million% into
Yeah.
this one, you know,
Mhm.
goal that it's like, okay, I need to put all this energy into something else, and what is that going to be? So that was probably the biggest thing for me was just feeling really lost for a minute. Like I said, knowing that I ultimately wanted to go into healthcare, but not really knowing what that journey was going to look like,
Mhm.
knowing I was going to go to more school um, somewhere, but didn't know if that was going to be PA school, nursing school, could still go to medical school down the road,
Mhm.
if I want to. So kind of trying to figure out, I think for me was what is the right way, what is the right path to do it, but I'm figuring out now there is really no right way. It's just you just kind of jump 2 feet into the journey and you know let it kind of take course, and yeah.
No, yeah, that's a great point. Just like there is no right way to do it. I think for me, I'm in a similar situation where like I said, my communications background, I even like even when I started in that major, I kind of didn't know what it was. So even figuring out career paths from there was a little confusing. And even now in the tech space, I'm like, I know this isn't exactly where I want to end up at, but you just like figure it out as the day goes on. And I think, like you said, like once you have to figure out who you are, it's like, okay, what passions do I have? Like so much of our time is just dedicated to our sport. So when you have all that free time, it is a little daunting to figure out, oh, maybe I am passionate about, I don't know, some random like
Mhm.
activity that we've never kind of experienced before. And I think also for me was just developing a sort of routine. I know I struggle like if I don't have a sort of routine and losing that once I turned away from this, the very structured life of college athletics was a bit confusing for me. I did feel lost for a minute, but even now, or now that I've figured out some sort of routine, I feel a lot more comfortable um, just navigating in the space. And I know you and I both are in two different spaces. I'm currently, like, I guess, working as an adult in the corporate world. And you and
Corporate girly.
yeah, corporate
Nine
girly,
to five.
9 to 5 punching the clock, you know? But I think it's so great to hear that we have both extremely different experiences with a very similar, like, bringing up of like both being student athletes and transitioning. Um, what is there anything you would have done differently, now that knowing all that you know now, is there anything you would have done differently to get to the point where you're at today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was when we were well, for me, like while I was in college, it was just like, oh, I just gotta get this degree. I'm just trying to like make it through the end of school or like make it through each semester. It was kind of just like, not that it was you were just barely surviving, but it was just there was so much going on. You were dedicating what 20 plus hours a week to your sport. We were in, by the time you're in junior, senior year, the college classes aren't easy anymore. So you're studying and you're, devoting yourself to your finishing your degree. I was working outside of doing athletics and school. And so there was just so much going on that it was like you were just kind of keeping up. And I think in retrospect, I wish I designated more time to kind of like figure out what my next steps were going to be. Not that I needed to have like a set in stone plan because as we're talking about, like there's no right or wrong way, but just a little bit of like headway on what that whole experience was going to look like. I think for me, I kind of graduated and I was like, okay, got through that.
Right.
Now what? And I was kind of like staring at like a blank canvas a little bit. So just kind of, I think networking is a huge thing and just talking to other people, like, a grade or two above you who have kind of just recently gone through that experience of like, okay, who do I need to be starting to talk to? What conversations do I need to start? What planning can I do on the back end to kind of make that transition a little easier?
Yeah, and I know like for both of us, like there was really no professional acrobatics and tumbling too. So it's like
Yeah.
you almost had to like come up with a plan because I know for other athletes, like in more established sports like track or football, basketball, there is a sort of option to go to the next level. But I think
Mhm.
we were almost forced to figure out that really quickly. And I mean, I feel like at Baylor, we had really great resources with our Student Athlete Center for Excellence and just being able to leverage that. But even then, it's like it was right there in our faces, but I feel like it took a lot, I guess, personally, for us to go out and explore those sorts of options.
Mhm.
But yeah, figuring out kind of what you needed to do. I think for me, what I would do differently, I guess, just knowing that where I am now, and if this was my actual final goal, I probably would have done a bit more networking early on. Like I said, I didn't know, like coming into the tech space, what this would be getting me into, but I feel like had I had a better idea of that, I could have started networking a little earlier, so I could have came out the gate swinging a little harder. Not that, I did anything wrong, but I feel like to be able to set myself up for a little more success or just continue to progress in my professional career, I think that would have been super beneficial.
Yeah. I know we had, like you mentioned, we had awesome resources that were almost, they were like required for us to go to from like a career development piece, which they were so important and so helpful and very impactful. But like I mentioned earlier, we had so many things going on. Our schedules were literally booked from like you woke up at 7 in the morning and boom, it was class, practice, workout, study hall until 10 o'clock at night. Like you figured out when to have lunch. Like that was our day. And so those like career development, professional development programs that we had the opportunity to go to, that we did have to go to, still just kind of felt like another thing on the schedule.
Uh,
And like looking back now, I'm like, that was really important, good stuff. You know, I'm like, I wish I would have taken it a little more seriously or like taken advantage of, you know, diving into it instead of just kind of sitting there and having to do it.
Yeah, I definitely found myself at times like putting it kind of on the back burner because, like you said, it was just like another thing that I felt like, okay, you must be here. So we would sit in, take the notes, and kind of move on to the next. But on that point, I feel like another thing that's super important to talk about here is just like what it's like transitioning out and having like a healthy relationship with fitness and nutrition and just like overall mental health after. Because I know we come from a very structured environment where we're told what to do in the weight room. We're told
Mhm.
kind of not that they tell us what to eat, but generally there's like a bank for us. Whoa, not the bank. Okay, that was our dining
Yes, the bank.
hall. There's a dining hall for us to go to. So deciding on food was not that difficult. Or I mean, some people did their own grocery shopping externally, but I feel like even figuring out small things like that, like what to do in the gym, how to eat right, eat correctly after, I think that's something super important. And I think I'm still figuring out, like, I do a lot of meal prepping, but I feel like I haven't explored a lot in the world of just like, always cooking. Like from time to time, I'll pick up a new recipe or two, or even in the gym, like I find myself sometimes thinking I need to max out, but I don't need to.
Yes.
I'm no longer throwing humans or flipping my body over. So how has that been for you, like figuring that
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge. I would say I have like a little bit of a not unique, but unique-ish experience with it just from like through college kind of struggling with my relationship with food, fitness, my body, all of that. And I think that's something that honestly a lot of student athletes relate to, whether we talk about it or not.
out?
And so getting out of athletics, it was like you said, okay, I don't have to throw humans over my head anymore. That's, I guess, niche to our sport. But like even in football, I'm not running like full speed at somebody and trying to tackle them anymore, So I want to train because I've trained my whole life. Like
Mhm.
again, been athlete since we came out the womb. And so I need to train for something. I'm so used to exercise. It's my outlet. It's something that's a part of my everyday routine.
Mhm.
But is it something that I'm doing because I want to do it or because I have to do it? And is it something that feels good for my body or is it something that I just like my brain is turned off and my body's programmed to do?
Yeah.
And like you said, there's so many times I'm like at the gym and I find myself doing like some of our exact like circuits that we
Literally.
used to do from school conditioning and they're really good like useful movements but at the same
Right.
time I'm like wow my mindset the last time I was doing this was like in a team setting was completely different
Yeah.
than it is now. um one of the biggest things I think for me was just like I kind of touched on earlier, figuring out like what feels good. You
Mhm.
know, we're both super disciplined. Again, being in athletics, we all have that level of discipline that we can relate to. But then knowing like if I wake up one morning and my body aches, like I don't have to push through
Oh,
anymore. Like there's a certain level of like holding yourself accountable and
yeah,
discipline that I think we all kind of like relate to. But then there's the point of like, okay, this isn't 2 weeks before the national
right.
championship. You know, I don't need to be like playing through injuries and illnesses. It's
Yeah,
just my everyday life. Like if I
right.
want to take a day off, I can take a day off. If I want to, you know, run a little extra or do a little more one day, I can. If I don't want to, I don't have to, and that's okay
Right.
too. So just kind of being in touch with your body, I guess, has been a challenge, but a cool journey at the same time. Now I'm like 2 years through figuring it out a little bit.
Yeah, it's totally like figuring it out is definitely the biggest thing because it's like even on that point, like comparison is the thief of joy. Like I think that's a
100%.
very true statement. And it's like when you graduate and you no longer have to, like you said, train or push through an injury, like it is weird giving yourself a break. You're like, oh wait, my shoulder might be hurting a little bit, but I don't have to keep going to the gym and pushing through because there's like nothing really that's like banking on that. But just figuring out what works for you is definitely the most important. Sometimes I find myself getting caught up on like social media and seeing what other, I guess, student athletes after athletics are kind of doing. I'm like, should I be doing that? But it's like, no, I don't really need to. But just like kind of just figuring that out and what works best for you. And now that we have all this free time on our hands, we can take the time to go try a random Pilates class or do hot
I
yoga.
was about to say that.
Yeah, like
I
I mean, I still
never,
haven't, you
go
got
ahead.
Okay, I still haven't gotten around to it, but I think that's definitely my next area to venture into. Just figuring out like what other ways like fitness can be fun because like I still obviously do want to work out like you were saying, but it doesn't always have to be in the weight room. Like I can go on a night do a yoga class on a Saturday morning. But yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like I've actually never done a workout class,
Yeah.
but I think that sounds, I don't know, I go back and forth. I'm like, that sounds so awesome and like different, a different way to work out. But then I'm like, am I gonna get really competitive in there and like start like trying to be like that, like, you know, I think it's Orange Theory is the class where they like put
Yeah.
your rankings up
Flat
and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do that yet because I am so competitive. But
literally.
going, one of my classmates teaches Pilates, so I'm gonna take one of her Pilates classes just to like experience different things.
Mhm.
I never ever saw myself as a runner. I always hated running, and it was always used as like conditioning punishment type. Like it was never like had a positive connotation in my brain running ever.
Yeah.
But I recently picked it up and like coming from a place of enjoying it and wanting to run and like I mentioned, being able to like walk if I start feeling like I can't keep running, you know, there's not like a time or a distance that I need to maintain. I'm just running because I want to run and it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, no, same. Like the Orange Theory classes. I think I took one when I was back home with my mom. It is a very competitive environment, and don't if you're like super competitive, you might want to take it easy because I did find myself trying to compete against like the instructor of the class, my mom, and everyone else in there. But
Yeah.
it's really fun. Same with like the F45 or the different. I know there's a few like Pilates studios here in Austin that I need to get around to trying out. But on that point of like competitiveness, I think there's just certain things like as student athletes, skills and transferable skills that we all possess, whether you're taking that into the professional world, whether you're going to grad school, whether you're just like operating in everyday life, that I think it's so great that we have. Like, I know we keep talking on this level of discipline. Like, a lot of people that I've spoken with admire. I don't want to say admire because I feel like that puts me up on a pedestal, but it doesn't. But they look up to the level of discipline that I'm still able to have and get up and go to the gym in the mornings and still maintain a sort of schedule. Are there any, I guess, transferable skills that you see still, um, showing up in your life now?
Yeah. I would say for me, one of the biggest ones that comes to mind is time management.
Mm,
Um, I am someone I was actually talking about this last night. I am like such a busybody, I think. I've always been doing like 1,020 things at once, and that's kind of just like how my brain is programmed.
yeah.
Like again, from as young as I was like old enough to have a job right away, I had one. Like I've just always like had a booked and busy schedule. And so that taught me how to time manage and prioritize and like still get my schoolwork done, make time for a workout, make time for some socialization on the weekends if I can. But like I have kept two part-time jobs while I've been in a full-time master's program, and it's been crazy and insane, but also like so normal to me. When I talk about it with other people, they're like, I can't believe you're doing all of those things. And to me,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just how my life is always, I'm used to having all of these things to do. And I feel like I kind of thrive under that environment. So that has definitely helped me like in every aspect of life. Like I never, yes, I like we're all type A a little bit, so I like to plan out my schedule and all
Yeah.
of those things, but I don't let it like freak me out when I have like a billion things to do and like a time crunch to do it. I'm just calm, cool, and collected, like, okay, nothing new.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of student athlete skills, like leadership skills and teamwork and all of those things, I find like coming right back into my everyday life outside of the practice gym or the field or the court or wherever we compete.
Yeah, no, super, super great. I think like on that time management piece, I think it's a good thing, or at least for me, that's a blessing and a curse. Like sometimes I raise my hand too many times, like to do
Yeah.
more things, and then I find myself getting burnt out super quickly. But I also do love that I keep myself busy because if I don't, I really do feel just like I'm not being a productive human. I'm like, okay, let me put something else, let me fill in this time slot. But like I was saying, I think I need to do a little bit of a better job of learning how to, step up, but also just take some things off of my plate. Because that time management piece is super important and being able to operate in such like high energy environments, but also have a sense of calm is great. Like I was
Yeah.
mentioning in my last conversation, how, coworkers all the time are like, Kennedy, how are you like staying so focused and so like level-headed
Chill.
when we have so many things going on. I'm like, it's just easy. Like it's just something that comes super natural to us. But are there any sorts like those and on the same topic, are there any transferable skills that are almost like a blessing and a curse for you that you would say?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say on that piece, oh God, I had my thought and I lost it.
Oh,
How you said it was a blessing and a curse, like being able, that's what I was gonna say. You used like feeling productive and feeling like a productive like member of society. Like I think that's a big thing with athletes is we always have to be performing and performing not necessarily to like please your coach or please yourself, but like to show and demonstrate that like you are at this certain level or I guess like in a athletic standpoint, like that you deserve to be in the starting lineup because we're so
right.
competitive. Things like that. Like you're always trying to perform and show that you're productive. And I think when you get into the workforce, like yes, you want to demonstrate your skills and your talents, but also there's nobody that's like sitting over you, like your coach, making sure that like you've done X, Y, and Z. And if you want to have a Sunday on the couch, you can have a Sunday on the couch and like that's okay too, you know? So being productive, yes, but then like knowing when it's like okay to take a rest day. And I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about in like fitness, like
Mhm.
when we were athletes, we prioritized our rest days when we were allowed to have them, but you weren't allowed to like decide when you had a rest day. Like it was
Right.
competition season. If you were tired, suck it up, buttercup, we're going to keep going because there's a competition goal that we need to hit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I don't know if that's really one skill that's a blessing and a curse, but just like the concept of my productivity
Mhm.
and knowing that that doesn't really define my worth at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's super important because, like, as students, we all go through it, and I'm sure we all have that drive to, like, like you were saying, perform with not even if it's not for a coach. Like, you want to always
Mhm.
be kind of performing at a high level, and I feel like this is such a great conversation because there are so many things that we could touch on, like. I don't know,
Right.
the fitness
Maybe a call.
aspect, the nutrition aspect. Like literally, we could go in so many different directions, and I think it's so great that we're in two different spaces and I have to think like if I even went to grad school, and even now I think about going back to school, it would just be like a mindset shift for me. Just to go back and get my MBA. But I know um, sometimes there are, like I was saying, there are times when I wish I would have went straight into school after. But I think the way I'm doing things now is allowing me to learn a little bit more about myself, who I am, like as an individual that isn't an athlete. But it's been a great opportunity for me to just continue to grow and push myself to kind of find new passions and
Yeah.
continue to, I don't know, be a regular
Yeah.
human.
And that kind of, sorry, I know you were probably about to bring up another question, but that circles me back to what we again started out talking about, our right or wrong way to do anything. Like I know for me, so my master's program that I'm currently in, it's called a direct entry master's program. So for most nursing degrees, you'd have to start with like a bachelor's of nursing. And our program allows you to have a bachelor's in any other background and then go directly into a master's of nursing.
Mhm.
Um, and it's cool because my program has such a wide variety of backgrounds of students. And so there's adults with, families and children who are like making their second and third career change. And there's like me who literally took I'm the youngest in my class. So
Yeah.
I literally took like one semester from my undergrad and I'm going straight into this position. And so it's so different. Like some of them have all these years of healthcare experience where I have zero on my resume. And again, the comparison is the thief of joy piece, like wondering, oh, well, if I had gotten a job first and allowed myself to, get away from school for a minute, because we were all so burnt out when you graduate college. Like you did what, 16 years of education? Like
Exactly.
that's a lot, we're tired.
Yeah.
So you just want to not be in school for a minute. And I wonder like, oh, well, if I had just like jumped right into the workforce first, and then you can always go back to school, but then on the reverse side of that, like, oh, well, they say if you spend too much time away from school, it makes it that much harder to go back. And just trying to like figure out, well, when's the best time or when's the right time to do it. At the end of the day, there's not going to be like a clear, concise, like message in the clouds, like this is the time to do it, like it's just, you just have to do it. And yeah, some timing is going to be better than others, but that's all kind of like up to the universe. And then it
Yeah.
adds into your journey. It makes
Yeah.
it part of the plot, if you will.
Doing things for the plot. That's honestly how
Yeah.
I've been living my 2024. And like you mentioned, career changes are absolutely possible. I know a few people, like even that I'm working with today. I'm one of the younger, well, not younger, but the class I came in with into sales. It was like a collegiate. They were hiring just college grads. So we all were kind of in the same pool, but there were a few people who are professional hires who had been working in the workforce prior and maybe had little to no experience in sales, but we're making a complete career change. And like you were saying, there is no right or wrong way to do something. So I could be where I am today and I could wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm super interested back in like, because I used to be super, I loved archaeology and astronomy when I was a kid. I don't know why. It was just always something that was so interesting to me. But I could literally wake up tomorrow and decide, hey, let me start taking some courses, finding classes, finding just groups to join to reacclimate myself and to maybe make a career change. And there really is no right or wrong way to do something. So I think that's something great to know. And just like, I guess as a point of transparency for all student athletes, like it's just a journey. You kind of take it how it is. There's no, like you were saying, there's no sign in the sky that's going to be like, this is what you must do today, and this is what needs to come tomorrow. There is general guidelines, which is, kind of what I hope to be able to provide with Dear Student Athlete University, just having conversations with people coming from all different aspects of life and going into completely different aspects of life. So when they're hearing someone talk about a similar situation, they can reach out to, maybe you or me. But that's the goal with Dear Student Athlete University, to create a resource and a network of individuals all working to rediscover and redefine who they are beyond the jersey. So that brings me to my last question. I'm sure we can kind of get way more into this, but is there any advice that you'd give to anyone, any student athlete getting ready for that scary transition of life after athletics?
Yeah, I would say don't allow yourself to kind of tunnel vision into what you are going to do. I think it's super important to have like an end goal or general idea of like, you know, like I said, I knew I wanted to get into healthcare, but I didn't know what that exactly was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 100% dedicated on a certain goal, like go
Right.
for it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it, because you can.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who, I think more the majority is like, oh, you have a general idea, but at the end of the day, I'm a little bit lost. I've been, so dedicated into athletics that I haven't really spent much time focusing on what I'm going to do with my life.
Mhm.
So don't turn away any opportunities just off like, well, that just doesn't really sound like
Right.
something I could see myself doing.
Mhm.
For example, I mentioned earlier, I always saw coaching as kind of like a side hustle to make money, but I didn't really explore it as anything further than that.
Mhm.
And I took a chance on a coaching job of starting a brand new acrobatics and tumbling program at TLU. Um,
Ooh.
yes, it was an
Ah.
exciting experience for sure.
Mhm.
But that's actually what drew the connection to my nursing program. And so I didn't even know that this Master's of Nursing program was an opportunity for me
Mhm.
until another one of our teammates at Baylor was becoming the head coach and starting a brand new acro program
Mhm.
down here at a new Division III university. And she was like, "Hey, I need an assistant." And I was like, I don't have anything else really lined up for when I
Right.
graduate in 2 weeks, so let me think about it. I
Mhm.
did some research and I found their nursing program, found out the university has, one of their main things they're known for is nursing. And
Mhm.
I was like, can I go to grad school and be the coach? And she was like, you sure can. And so like that's another way of the right or wrong
Mhm.
journey. Like I never, and now like I said, I started that coaching job thinking, okay, this is just a way to get me through grad school and then I'm gonna get my job in healthcare. But
Mhm.
I've absolutely fallen in love with coaching. I mean, it has its ups and downs, but it's been a really awesome way to make that transition from being a student athlete into my adult life. Like a little bit easier because I'm still super involved and I'm very passionate about creating, a positive experience for like the next generation of student athletes growing up. Um,
Mhm.
giving them all the great things that I loved about it and trying to be the one to break the chain of all of the bad things
Yeah,
that
for
come
sure.
with athletics.
Mhm.
So that's where I find my role in coaching and where I've become passionate about and something super unexpected that I didn't really open my mind to when I was graduating. I was like, okay, I'm going to nursing school or medical school or PA school, whatever. So
Mhm.
don't shut any doors, keep them all open. And then, like I mentioned earlier, another piece of advice is just network and start early. Don't let yourself just keep up until you're graduating to figure it out. Do a little bit on the back end. It doesn't have to be anything intense, but make the connections, get involved in something else on campus. I know I had felt like I had no time because I didn't really have time to do anything else outside of athletics. But then I graduated and I was like, hey, my resume has one really awesome thing on it. Just one. Just one. So get in, you'll meet people, you'll do something fun, you'll start that kind of like soul searching experience of who am I outside of athletics because you'll be like, oh, I've learned, I've joined this club and I've learned I really like rock climbing. I don't know, this is the first thing that comes to mind, but
Yeah.
it can be, like education based, it can be like something spiritual based, it could be anything. So I think that'd be my advice.
Yeah. Expecting the unexpected and networking. I like that. Because, yeah, like there's no right way to do like if something comes knocking at your door it's the best to just like embrace it and kind of see what it is because you never know what it could turn into and like also what works hand in hand with that is exactly what you said being able to network. I know that like Baylor in general we just have a really great network. I think I find myself a lot of times just surfing on LinkedIn who has went to Baylor University or who is there and I think we have a really good student athlete alumni program as well that stays pretty close knit but that networking piece has definitely been my bread and butter as I've navigated throughout the professional, just like making connections, making meaningful connections at that, ones that are like we're both benefiting, so a mutually beneficial relationship. But also, I guess another piece of advice I would have, I think, let me see. Um, Maybe just like giving yourself grace, like how we were talking about. You don't always have to be performing at a super high level. Like it is okay to take time off. I think, like I said, I'm still learning how to do that. Sometimes, like I'll find
Yes.
ways where I'm like giving myself a day off, and I'll feel like guilty, and I'm like, wait, no, I've earned this day off. So just giving yourself grace and knowing that this transition doesn't have to be as difficult or as scary or as daunting as it seems. So if you're a student athlete currently in school, or you even have graduated and you are still just like trying to figure it out. It's okay. Everyone is running this race of life at their own speed, at their own pace. We're all meant to help each other out. So I hope that, we can all take a look at who we have in our networks and just like the people, individuals like yourself, Sophia, that I'm bringing on to have conversations about their walks of life. And you can feel comfortable in knowing that, none of us have it all figured out. We're all just, navigating life. On our own. But with that, I want to, wrap things up and just thank you so much for joining us because I think you brought a very different approach and look. And we were able to dive a little bit more into the personal and mental and physical health aspect of things, which I feel like it's, like I said, super important, if not more important, the professional development aspect. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. This has been awesome. My last words of everything to sum it up is trust the process. That's something we always say in athletics of like our year as a team of trust the process of transitioning outside of it too. It's scary and weird, and we're all just figuring it out. Like the two of us are 2 years graduated this May, I guess, and we're still figuring it out. It's been a journey, but that's been the best part of it has been the journey. So
Yeah.
thank you for everything, Kennedy, and for creating Dear Student Athlete University. I'm excited to be a part of it and see where it goes.
Yes, thank you so much. Like Sophia said, trust the process. And I'm so glad that you guys all tuned in and joined us for this conversation on with Dear Student Athlete University and exploring more on how to empower student athletes beyond the jersey.